The 2021 ELF season was a very different landscape to what we know today. Although it was only 3 years ago, it feels like it was entirely 50. The NFL had a lot of growth within the last 100 years, and it seems that we've done that in the last 3. Import rules are different, the player quality is different, the rules overall are different with the kickoff and everything like that. And I wanted to look back into the past and kind of grade some of the imports we saw in 2021 for the first ever championship team that we saw in the ELF. The criteria for this one is quite simple when it comes to how long they've been at the club, how much impact they've had, the stats they put up, the impact on the Frankfurt Galaxy overall. Longevity is a big one as well, because although Europe is just a land filled with 1-year contracts, it still matters to have these players here for multiple years. That's not something we see very often, and Frankfurt is actually one of the more common teams we've seen players stay with for a while. So we're going to be using A+ to F grades on this one, and we're going to start with Jacob Sullivan. Jacob Sullivan has been a starting quarterback for the Frankfurt Galaxy every year since 2021, and that will change in 2024. However, during his time with the Frankfurt Galaxy, he was undoubtedly one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He won Offensive Player of the Year in 2021 and was named an All-Star and led the team to the championship. During his career with the Frankfurt Galaxy, he has had 70 touchdowns with only 20 interceptions, over 6,500 yards. He also threw at a 64.78% completion rate and had a quarterback rating averaging out at 105. Although he isn't returning for this year, Jacob Sullivan has been one of the most successful quarterbacks in the ELF. During 2021, he was one of the best, top 3 easily, undoubtedly. And this one for me is an easy A+ grade. You can't ask much more of a quarterback than to get them an Offensive Player of the Year, an MVP candidate, and overall a championship ring. I think a lot of people forget that Antti Mohonu played for the Frankfurt Galaxy in 2021. In that season, he was an All-Star with 468 yards and 6 touchdowns. There were a lot of people above him, so I'm somewhat surprised that he was an All-Star in that season. He then found more success at the Rhein Fire 2 years later, becoming the closest any European receiver has got to 1,000 yards, with 984 and 11 touchdowns. This one is hard to grade, as he is clearly the best European receiver in the league, but for the Frankfurt Galaxy, he only had 1 season there and didn't do as well as he did with other clubs. He was their leading receiver in 2021, therefore I'm going to give this one a B+. You have to remember this is not a grading of how good they are as players, but a grading of their longevity and their impact within the Frankfurt Galaxy themselves. Genetry Adams, the Russian-American running back, is going to be next up. Didn't actually play that many games for Frankfurt Galaxy, only 7 overall in his 2 seasons. 5 in the first where he counted for 299 yards. He split carries with the Rookie of the Year in Joe Dalman. Got 5.86 yards per carry and got 4 touchdowns. He did fumble the ball twice, which is something he did later fix when he went to Potsdam after the Frankfurt Galaxy. In 2022, he then went for 2 games, got 92 yards, 3.29 yards per carry, 0 touchdowns. Genetry Adams is a very good running back, and he's going to the Rockwall Panthers this year, but the Frankfurt Galaxy, he didn't have as much of an impact. The record keeping when it comes to injuries in this league is not very good, especially in 2021, so he may have been dealing with injuries, he may have left for other instances, we don't really know. So this one's going to be a C. It's important to note that he did split carries, so his stats were somewhat affected, but overall won a championship and accounted for nearly 400 yards in his career. It doesn't sound like that much, but within 7 games and small sample size, it's pretty good. Kevin Mwamba is another one of those Frankfurt Galaxy players that's been there for a very long time. 3 seasons at the Frankfurt Galaxy to be precise, and his stats do not tell the whole story of his impact. He is a tight end and he's only accounted for 672 receiving yards during his 3 seasons, but his impact is best felt on the line of scrimmage. He's a very good blocker, he's always been around that top 5 tight end conversation, and for me, being that consistent and that reliable gets him an A grade. Some people may be surprised, he's never went over 300 yards in his career. His career high is 3 touchdowns. But I think when it comes to Kevin, you've got to look into the tape. His blocking is very good for a tight end, and I would say that he probably is the best blocking tight end in the league as of now. He's going to be going to the Paris Musketeers, back to his home country. It's a big loss for Frankfurt. They are obviously trying to move into more of a dynamic passing offense, which Kevin doesn't necessarily fit that scheme. But for me, Kevin is an A grade. He's been very reliable, he's been very consistent, and he has played there every season that the ELF has existed. Checo So is the next player we're going to look at. France was quite a regular occurrence when it came to Frankfurt Galaxy in 2021. No change here. French receiver is fast, he's speedy. Spent 2 seasons with the Frankfurt Galaxy. Appeared in 19 games. Didn't have the most impact. First season, he only got 16 targets, got 14 catches for 117 yards and 2 touchdowns. Second season, he saw a little bit more, but was more of a bench player that would come on for a spark. 31 catches, 335 yards and 4 touchdowns. He actually kept that same role. We went to the Paris Musketeers, 24 catches, 368 yards, 2 touchdowns. So for a total of 820 yards on his ELF career with 8 touchdowns. So that's some of the most underrated hands in the league, I think. He's a very good slot player. He can create a burst with his speed and has ability with the ball in his hands. For the Frankfurt Galaxy, just over 450 yards. I think given his 2 seasons and his impact off the bench, I would give him a C+ for this signing. The Danish centre Joachim Christiansen is one of my favourite players in all of Europe. The centre is undoubtedly one of the best to ever play in a position in Europe. He spent 2 seasons for the Frankfurt Galaxy, accounted for 20 games in his career there, and was a first team All-ELF and then an All-Star in 2021 as well. So 2-time All-Star in his 2 seasons, a championship ring, and one of the best in position. I think this one is an easy A+ grade. You can't really ask for much more from anyone other than to be an All-Star in both of the situations that you put them in. He then went to the Rhein Fire, got a 3rd All-Star selection, and is one of the only players in ELF history to achieve 3 All-Star selections in 3 years. He retired this year as one of the best players to ever play in position, and for that, thank you very much, Joachim. Enjoy retirement. Amari Williams, one of the best safeties in the ELF today. And again, another player that people don't really assume with the Frankfurt Galaxy for whatever reason, more with the Rhein Fire because he has spent 2 seasons there in 2022 and 2023. Both of his All-Star selections also came in the Rhein Fire. However, that does not mean that he wasn't effective in the Frankfurt Galaxy. He played 9 total games, got 3 interceptions, 3 breakups and a forced fumble, 16 tackles in total. He's super dynamic safety. He can make plays all over the field. The problem with this grade, and this one is a hard one to grade, is because he is a spectacular player, but he hit his peak in a different team, like a few others we've seen already, and I think for that one, I'm going to give it a B+. BJ Lowry is one of the most talented players to ever step foot in the ELF field. For the Frankfurt Galaxy, he played in 16 total games, got 4 interceptions, 2 blocked kicks, 38 total tackles, 15 breakups. In 2021, he only appeared in 4 games. 2022, however, he appeared in 12 and was one of the best players in the position. The praise that comes from BJ Lowry, a lot of the quarterbacks I speak to in the ELF have said he is the best DB they've ever played in the league. He played for Iowa for multiple years. He just retired this season. For Frankfurt Galaxy, he was an awesome player. I think for that one, it's an A grade. Mamadou Sy is one of the most underrated defensive tackles in the entire league, and I feel like a lot of people don't pay enough attention to the defensive lineman overall, especially interior. He wasn't used as effectively as he could have been in Frankfurt Galaxy. He spent 2 seasons there, played 15 games, and then went to the Paris Musketeers for his 3rd season at ELF. In his ELF career, he has 45 total tackles, 1.5 sacks, 6.5 tackles for loss, 3 pass breakups, a blocked kick and 2 fumble recoveries. He is one of the better players in the position, but his impact wasn't as felt in Frankfurt. It's much more felt in Paris. So maybe another one of the players is hitting their prime in a different club. Maybe due to the players in other positions performing better than him in that one, and maybe his lack of game time and stat impact, I'm going to give this one a C+. Wayne Drew is a solid defensive lineman from the UK. He only really played in 2 games, has 3 listed, but didn't register any stats in that 3rd game. Played alright when he was on the field, just wasn't really on the field very much. I'm assuming injuries, again, kind of hard to tell sometimes, the ELF stat keeping and record injuries and stuff like that, but a difficult one to grade given he didn't play very much at all. This one I'm going to give a D+. Vili Välisti, the Finnish defensive lineman, is going to be the next person we talk about. Former Eastern Michigan player, Played 2 seasons in the ELF, one of which was with the Frankfurt Galaxy. Had 4.5 sacks, forced fumble and a fumble recovery. Had only 19 total tackles. Played 3 games with the Surge in 2023. Hasn't quite lived up to what people were expecting him to do, but again, could have been injuries, could have been other outside factors, we don't know. 4.5 sacks doesn't sound that much, but when you consider his players like Evans Yoruba and Alessandro Fernandez got 4.5 and 5 respectively, as did Lance Lota got 4 and Will Nasri got 4, kind of puts it into perspective that he was among the solid to pretty damn good defensive linemen. Overall, when he was on the field, pretty solid, especially for a guy who moves around the defensive line quite a bit, and I think that I'm going to give this one a B-. The big elephant in the room when it comes to the Frankfurt Galaxy's 2021 season was how they dealt with certain players with injuries. And a big player that came out about this was Cadell King, as with Desmond Cooper, who we'll get to in a minute. But when it came to their injuries, they were not taken care of as well as they should have been, and also there was problems with their accommodation and whatnot. I am hoping that the Frankfurt Galaxy have sorted this out now, but as far as a pure player goes, Cadell King was a very, very good British linebacker. Did not play as much because of aforementioned injuries, but during his time on the field he was effective. Got a sack and a pass breakup and a multitude of tackles, as well as 2 tackles for loss, and I think that if he had had a full season, he could have been in all-star contention. We have seen how good he is when it comes to other teams, playing a linebacker, but because of the injuries, I'm going to have to give this one a B. As mentioned earlier, Desmond Cooper was another player who suffered with injuries and was vocal about the team's lack of care when it came to their rehabilitation and their, upkeep of the team. While he was on the field, did play well, has interception yards, but weirdly doesn't have any interceptions list on the stats, so that's weird. But was one of the better players. I've actually met Desmond Cooper in person, so it was a pleasure to see him. I think that he is one of the most underrated DBs. He's a veteran of the game. He's played in everywhere you can possibly imagine. He's a pioneer of the game, and was kind of upset that we couldn't see him get a full season under his belt with the injuries and with the whole situation. So I think kind of matches Cadell's grade, and I'm going to go with another B. We are going to finish off the import players with Precious Ogboven. Linebacker, All-Star in 2022, not with the Frankfurt Galaxy where we heard that one before, but Frankfurt Galaxy, he played 10 games, 26 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a sack, an interception and a pass breakup. He was kind of everywhere, and that has kind of been his MO. He did the same with the Surge, that's where he got his All-Star selection, and then when he teamed up with his brother Lucky in the Raiders, he did pretty much the same thing. So he's everywhere, he's a smaller linebacker, but he's buzzing around, he's good at blitzing, he's not awful in coverage, he's pretty decent in coverage, and showed to be a very good player in the league and a very good Austrian player for their team. Only played 1 year, so kind of hard to grade them, but I think given that he did perform pretty well when he was on the field and then showed afterwards that he could be even better, it's kind of a difficult one to grade, I'm going to give this one a B+. And that is everyone. The 2021 Frankfurt Galaxy import class. There are other players, Sebastian Goethe, Daniel Josiah and Marko Vidovic, who I believe counted as homegrowns. They have like the flags next to their names, but I'm pretty positive they count as homegrowns, so I haven't included them on this one. But if you enjoyed this one, please let me know. It's really good to explore the history of the ELF and really educate myself and kind of delve into some of these deeper players. So that was good fun. Really enjoyed making it. If you like this one, like, subscribe, do the normal thing. A lot of the people aren't subscribed to find through external stuff, through my Instagram, my Twitter, or Facebook. So if you are still watching this one, thank you very much. Much appreciated, and thank you and goodbye.